Hello and welcome to the premier Nintendo podcast on all of the internet, Super Switch Headz, episode 135. My name is Patrick Nicely.
My name is Matthew Stoner.
My name is David Howe, and boy, oh boy, ladies and gentlemen, we have a very special guest joining us for today's episode. Summer Rain has returned to the podcast. How's it going, Summer?
It's going good. Thanks for having me.
Of course.
Yes, Summer, you are here to talk with us about the Animal Crossing New Horizons Direct that happened just recently, which had a ton of information about updates coming to that game. And we're going to get into all of that. We've got a lot of interesting news. Sora is out in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. There's more talk about the Switch Pro. Yes. And we've got some fun sales numbers stuff to talk about. Yes, this is gonna be so good.
And then $80 for a family plan of NSO. Yes. I don't know. We'll talk about it.
But before we get into anything else, how's everyone doing?
Pretty good. Yeah, I just like fucking, I don't know what happened to me this weekend, but I just was gaming nonstop the entire weekend. I like didn't do anything I needed to do around the house and was just playing around on my OLED and beat some games we'll talk about later in the episode. Yes, indeed. But yeah, been just having a pretty chill week.
I was in Denver over the weekend, went to Meow Wolf Conversion Station, their new installations, 90,000 square feet, and spent 7 hours there. It was incredible.
Wow.
Very good. When are you starting the Meow Wolf podcast?
Yeah, no kidding.
It's tomorrow. Let's do it. I need at least 7 hours to rest, and then I'll start. It's incredible. It's so big. Man, it's just mind-numbingly huge. It's incredible. They have a main section, and it looks like a Blade Runner type city. So it feels like you're walking through a movie set.
Love that.
That's cool. Summer, how have you been?
I have been good. I was jokingly lamenting about how I still haven't gotten to Master Rank in Pokemon Unite because I keep going outside. This weekend was just really beautiful, and I got to spend a lot of time outside. And the gaming has to wait until the evening when it gets cold out.
The goddamn sun.
Yeah, I know. It keeps getting in my way in ranked.
Well, yeah, it has been for those of us who live in hotter areas. This has been really nice. The weather has finally changed, and yeah, it's been fantastic to be outside. Yeah. Aside from the allergies, but
even during my stupor of just playing video games in the dark this weekend, I made an effort to go out and take some walks this weekend because it was so nice outside. Yeah. By the way, how'd your the Animal Crossing fashion show go on Twitch?
Yeah, it went really, really well. I had honestly kind of better than I thought it was going to for the first time I was hosting it. Because, you got to work out all the kinks and communication errors and stuff. We actually didn't have an island shut down like what usually happens with Nintendo Online. So that was awesome. So yeah, definitely going to be making that a monthly thing now that I have the whole setup on my island.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's especially now that everyone's going to be playing it again.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Now is a good time to get back into Animal Crossing.
Yes.
For sure. Mm-hmm. Well, before we get into all the news, we're going to give a few quick shout outs. We get lots of great comments now. And so we're, kind of focusing on a few of them. We got a couple great comments on Facebook. Vincent Goodwin mentioned his great episode as always. Thank you, Vincent. But also talked about the Bloomberg articles and how Nintendo has commented on them. In particular, a really nice point about how Bloomberg is sort of like a financial magazine. I'm paraphrasing. And so Nintendo investors may not read IGN or Kotaku, Vincent said, but they pay good attention to, industry trends and on places like Bloomberg. And so that's why Nintendo has to make comments on their articles and why Bloomberg can really mess with them.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then also on Facebook, Jeffrey Buck made a comment about Metroid Dread and said that they, were annoyed, or these are my words, about reviews and things about Metroid Dread, saying that it's too hard or frustrating because, they think that that's just part of the game, and that's what's great about it, is the challenge and dying and learning and that kind of thing. And I agree.
I think it was a pretty bold of Nintendo to reintroduce 2D Metro, like a new 2D Metroid that is such a challenge, and not. It's usually when like a thing's been away for a long time, they really kind of dumb it down to get as many people back into it as possible. So it's pretty bold of them to just have this game be fucking hard. It's pretty great.
I think it's great for multiple reasons, right? Like, we're usually complaining about Nintendo games being too easy.
Mhm.
And also that genre has kind of become known for that. You know what I mean? And so they're giving fans of it what they want. So yeah, I agree with Jeffrey Buck there. And then lastly, Record2 on the YouTube mentioned that they aren't planning on getting an OLED, but are curious about it and wish that they could like see one in stores or like in a display or even a box. And I think that's a great point, because I think the OLED is one of those devices that maybe if you could see it and hold it, you could really make a call for yourself, right? Like, I know that for me, I was not super interested in the Switch Lite until I actually went into a store and picked it up and was like, oh, this feels really lightweight and it is a sort of display. So
yeah, I think if more people got their hands on the thing, even before buying it, I think even more people would be picking it up. It's definitely got like a feel to it. You know what I mean? Very nice stuff.
And in brief update, I got my Switch OLED today, like literally a couple hours ago.
Whoa.
The Walmart shipped it. So
Patrick, you're holding up the box right now.
Yes, sorry, audio listeners.
Got you.
Thank you. Matthew is like closed captioning for the audio listeners.
For the visually impaired.
Yeah, I was like, wait.
I don't know. What am I trying to say? Y'all fix it. We'll fix it in post.
Subscribe on YouTube. Come on. You're missing out on so much.
So thanks to all those people and everyone else who also commented and that kind of thing. We appreciate it. And we love to hear from y'all. Send us notes, send us comments, leave reviews, share the podcast somewhere, like and subscribe on YouTube. And we'll talk about all the news and rumors. So Sora is out in Super Smash Brothers. We record this episode on Mondays. So it is Monday, October 18th. We are a mere 45 minutes away from Sora being released. So we can't give you any information right now.
Yet, as is tradition, usually characters come out the nights that we record podcasts. So hopefully during the break, we'll have a chance to actually fuck around with them a little bit. So stay tuned to the very end of the episode, and we'll see if we can give you our very brief impressions of Sora.
Usually David doesn't pay attention when I'm talking about the games I'm playing and just plays a round of Smash and then gives his impressions.
That has happened on maybe 7 different episodes. Yeah. It's okay. He's always just like, my kid was playing a mobile one. You can just skip that part.
We can skip it now. David just did it. So we'll just go straight to David's impressions of Sora when we get there.
I'm just kidding.
So what are we talking about? Metroid. Some people on Twitter and places have kind of pointed out that all the eShop sales charts in various regions for the Switch and the Wii U and the 3DS are being led by Metroid games, or high up on the sales charts for the different regions. There you go, right, Nintendo? I think, isn't this proof that like people probably would be buying these old Metroid games on the Switch if they could?
Yeah.
Yep.
I installed recently updated my Wii U because I wanted to start playing the Metroid Prime games because I have the trilogy on there. And yeah, I went onto the eShop and it was just all Metroid at the top. Like the first 5 games were all Metroid games. It was pretty cool to see. And obviously on the Switch as well. It's really good to see. I know we have a story in here later, Patrick, about, the NPD numbers. Yes. Did they say anything about Metroid sales in there?
No, because it's always a month back, right? So
okay, right.
We are going to have to wait about a month from now to hear about where Metroid lands, but that'll be interesting.
Yeah, for sure.
So mid-November-ish, we'll know. But also, I don't know a lot about this. David, I think you might know more about it. There's been some sort of Metroid Dread error or issues with progression, and they're going to patch it out or something. Is that what it is?
Nintendo put out a tweet about this, that late in the game in Metroid Dread, there is a bug that can hinder progression. And they put out kind of in vague terms, I guess, because it's sort of close to the end of the game and they didn't want to spoil anything. But I think it's essentially if you put a map marker on a door towards the end of the game, it has to be a certain kind of door, then it'll stop you from being able to progress. And so there should be a patch coming out by the end of October that fixes this progression bug. But just a little bit of a heads up. I didn't run into it. Maybe as you're nearing the end of the game, don't use door markers that much on the map. But as of now, it doesn't seem like it's affecting that many people, but just something to keep an eye on.
Cool. And then Mercury Steam, who is the developer of Metroid Dread, not a Nintendo-owned company, a Spanish company, has had a bit of negative press lately about a couple of things. So we'll start with the first one, which is that some of the people that worked on the game but were not employed at the game at Mercury Steam when the game released are not on the game's credits, and that has made the rounds in the news, which is good because this is very common, actually, and a big problem in the video game industry, and something that you can find a lot of articles about. And also, as somebody who's been trying to get involved in video game writing and stuff. This is a discussion that one of the writers groups I'm in has actually had, not related to Metroid Dread at all, before this news broke, where people were discussing not wanting to quit a job before a game shipped because getting that first credit is a big deal. And because a lot of companies, when they're hiring, want you to have worked on a shipped game. You know what I mean? And that's just like that you have a credit and that kind of stuff. And so it's a really weird problem. There's no laws or even really like incentives or anything. Video game credits are kind of used very willy-nilly. It's kind of a weird practice. There is something called the IDGA, the International, I spelled it wrong, maybe, Game Developers Association.
That's all right.
Okay. That has guidelines about this, but there's no enforcement. There's no unions in video games like there are in film, and that kind of thing.
Yeah, this is very, very unfortunate and very stupid. And like you said, it's an industry-wide problem, not just Mercury Steam that's having this issue. I mean, it's becoming an issue in the news sites because this game is very successful and people have spoken out about it. But this happens constantly on all different sorts of games. And I can't think of any reason why this is a rule other than either employee retention, which is definitely the wrong way to go about it, or just pure pettiness. You know what I mean? Like if you leave a project or you're not here for as long as everybody else, like you don't get it. A credit is literally you just type it out and it's just text at the end of the game, but everybody who worked on that game should get credited regardless of the amount. I know, like at my company, we have credits at the end of our stuff, and it's like if there have been people who left who are only on the project for the first few months of a project, but if you put in the work, like you should be on the credits list, and I think that's just like really bad practice, and it's definitely not a good look.
Yes.
Yeah, it's so unfortunate. And it kind of feels so weird because we don't see it much in like the film industry where we see long credits in games. It's much shorter. This bums me out just like reading this. And like for me, when I was working at THQ, I've had to, this was like a decade ago, like I had to play test a game for a certain amount of time in order to get my name on the credits. Like I worked on Ratatouille, an Xbox 360 licensed game, but I didn't, my name's not in the credits because maybe I worked on it for 3 or 4 weeks.
I don't believe you.
It was really the rat that did the testing.
Prove it, Matt.
I
Prove
can't.
you're on the.
I can't.
I know
do
that's
it.
the point. That's the point. I'm trying to show this is bullshit.
Yeah. This sucks. It's also another thing. Like, we don't know how many of these employees who worked on the game were contractors. Not necessarily with Mercury Steam. The Mercury Steam folks are the only people who are being vocal about this, but there's probably a gaggle of other people who worked on Metroid Dread who didn't get credited because they're contractors, maybe subcontractors of Mercury Steam.
Yeah. All this does is fuck with the livelihoods of video game developers.
Yes.
You know what I mean? This just stops their ability, because like it's like there's no better business card in a creative space than just being like, play the game, look at the end, my name's in the credits. You know what I mean? Like, that's how you show like what you've done. And I think one of the people that was talking about this is like, hey, I fucking, I'm watching all the advertisement for this game, and they're all using animations in all these cutscenes that I worked on. And I have to watch all the ads for this game and all the marketing for this game, and everybody sees this every single day. And I'm not even in the credits of the game, and that's just terrible to hear.
Yes,
I don't know. I just think it just seems so petty and pointless, other than to hurt people.
And like, if you're that animator, you can't be like, hold up the whole project. Make sure my name is in the credits before you ship it.
Right.
Like,
especially if you're not at the company anymore.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's hard to do.
Yeah, and
they can't see their name in the credits until after it's gone gold and they're playing the game and maybe finish the game.
So also and arguably worse maybe is that some information has come out. Some employees of Mercury Steam have complained about just sort of the conditions at the studio of which, I mean, maybe this kind of ties into maybe why some people who worked on it are no longer there. Just about not being switched around onto the teams they want to work on, and just sort of in general, sort of it's being a bad atmosphere, and it sounds like maybe crunch and that kind of thing.
Well, they did say that they don't crunch.
They don't crunch.
It's not crunch, but it's like, but it also led to issues because of that. It's not, obviously they weren't like advocating for crunch, but it was like I think that was part of the reason that there were issues, is that Nintendo, I think, was like, hey, the scope of this is getting a little bit too big. Like, apparently they wanted to have like twice as many boss fights and even more cinematics. And Nintendo was like, look, we can't pay you for all this. Like, we've only paid you for X amount of work. And so that led to issues within the company because of project management and the management of scope, and the fact that they don't crunch. All of a sudden it's like, okay, well, we can't like pay everybody for everything because we're contracted to make this game by Nintendo. You know what I mean?
Certain amount of time.
And so part of that is sad, because you wish you could have seen what this game would have been like if they were able to just keep working on it for way longer. You know what I mean? But at the same time, it just sounds like there's some pretty bad management decisions going on at Mercury Steam.
Pandemic, it was also kind of cited as like not managed well. But there's a lot of information out there if you want to go dig into that, but it is just, again, not something unique to Mercury Steam, but it's kind of a bummer to have this game come out and be so awesome and then have the next news cycle be followed by all this stuff.
Tale as old as time, man. I mean, it happened with Naughty Dog and all these different studios. You always, as soon as it starts being successful, you hear about the people that are bitter they've been left out, with good reason. My question for you now is, now that Nintendo's been hearing all this stuff about what's been going on at Mercury Steam, do you think this hurts their chances of working on another Metroid game? Do you think like Nintendo is going to want to work with them again after hearing some of this stuff? Do you think like maybe this hurts their chances of an acquisition?
I was definitely wondering before this news came out when it was feeling like Metroid was on top, and it still is, but like if that might mean an acquisition might happen. And they might be, the 2D Metroid style developer for Nintendo or whatever. But yeah, I don't know. That definitely is a good point. I could see this. And Nintendo probably doesn't like to fuck around with bad press. So
I feel like there's a lot of the conversations are happening in a silo at Mercury Steam, and there's not a crossover that says from like Mercury Steam has bad management to Nintendo has bad management.
Right.
And I don't think what is happening at Mercury Steam is affecting the Nintendo brand. And so that tells me that I think they'll work with Mercury Steam again, whether it's on a Metroid game or something else. Maybe not be acquired, but it's making money. It's doing well. It's got great reviews. I'll make another one.
And it's probably only like people like us that
That
like,
even know this is going on.
Yeah, I mean, people that like the hard, whatever you want to call it, the people that follow
The hard motherfuckers.
The hard motherfuckers. All right. So we have talked quite a bit in the past about Nate from Nate the Hate, his current podcast, Nate Drake, whatever, however you want to refer to him, known insider / leaker of sorts, who had a really, a recent episode of his podcast, Nate the Hate, which he does with MVG, about this Switch Pro stuff that was talked about in that Bloomberg article we talked about with the 4K upscaling, where Bloomberg said that they have 7 or however many developers that have said they've gotten this development kit, and on his podcast he pretty much says that it's real, right? That he's talked to people at, I don't know if it's Zynga or just whatever, or if he even said what it was, but that this is a model that might be coming sometime in a year to 18 months from now or so, late 2022, early 2023. I actually haven't had a chance to listen to this old podcast. I've just seen summaries of the information they discussed. Have you listened to it, David? I know you like to listen to Nate the Hate.
Yeah, I have. I've listened to it. It's pretty good. It's not a ton of new information, but it's basically him reiterating that, yes, this is the case. And it's like he's got his own sources that he's basically corroborating with the sources that Bloomberg cited, right? And I think studios passed that as well. I think he said that, Bloomberg cited like 11 studios, and he knows that there are more than that, right? And he's been saying this for a while, that people have these development kits for games, making games specifically for a 4K system that wouldn't run on the original Switch. So I don't think anybody doubted it. I think, we talked about it recently, how like the OLED feels like they ordered parts for a Switch Pro, but then all the parts weren't ready. So they were like, fuck it, just slap the X1 inside this Switch Pro shell and we'll call it a revision, And I think that the more and more I hear about it, the more and more it seems like that's what happened with the Switch OLED model.
It just is interesting after Nintendo issued that strong denial of it being the case.
Well, we'll get to it in a little bit when we talk about the NSO stuff, but I think it's not conspiratorial to look very deeply into the exact wording of Nintendo statements. You know what I mean? Because I think there are ways you can read what they said about the 4K developer kits that they could then turn around. It's like when they say like, oh, hey, people ask them, is there a Switch Lite coming? And they're like, we have no plans for a Switch Lite. And then a week later, they're like, here's the Switch Lite. It's like there are ways they can kind of finagle their way around saying the wrong thing. Yeah.
Well, anything else on this before we move on? It felt big in the moment, but maybe like you said, it's kind of like, it's just more information pointing that, we're going to keep seeing iterations of the Switch every year to 2.
Summer, you did you end up ordering an OLED?
I can't find one.
Right. I mean, you would get one. Like you wouldn't hold for a Pro in lieu.
No, I do have a day one Switch, and I when pre-orders came out for the OLED, I like convinced myself to not get an OLED because the idea of pre-ordering a system overwhelmed me, and now I'm seeing everybody and I'm like refreshing Best Buy every single day looking for one because I'm seeing that everybody's got it, and I am primarily a handheld player, so I'm like, dang it, this really is like I deserve this.
You do deserve it.
Yeah.
I do, and I just don't. I can't find it.
Gotcha. Yeah, I was just wondering if there was anybody holding off still for a Switch Pro,
Oh, yeah. I mean, like, I'll definitely get that when it comes out too. But like everything, like the topic of today, this is a year and a half later. So that's a year and a half that it could still take to get the Switch Pro.
That's what I think.
Live for the now.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, everyone listening, y'all deserve a OLED model too.
OLEDs for everyone. Look under your seat.
God, we sound like such fucking shills, man. Nintendo, pay us.
Well, moving on. Another Nintendo leaker of sorts is Zippo, who hasn't really maybe been dropping a lot of information lately, but makes these sort of blog posts of interest in their most recent one. They didn't really have a lot of insider information, but they did claim that the Kirby and the Forgotten Land, the new Kirby 3D game that's coming next year, was in like a 5.5 year dev cycle. And this is like maybe leakers arguing with each other, but then Samus Hunter, who's another Nintendo leaker on Twitter, was like, actually it was 4 years. And also, who cares? But
either way, that's a long time for a Kirby game. I think Kirby games have a lot faster turnaround times than that usually.
Yeah, they grab and slap the concept.
Yeah, they suck and blow a Kirby game right onto a new platform.
But I think hopefully
guys, give me something there.
Aside from the fact that 4 years or 5.5 could be the same thing, if like we're talking about, there's always like probably a small team that's like thinking about it and prototyping it, and then when they enter like technically into pre-production or something, so like aside from that, which is an interesting topic unto itself, and would be interesting to know more about how Nintendo works on those cycles like that, but is the fact that this game has been, like you said, longer maybe than a lot of games. So hopefully that's a good sign that this is going to be what we all want it to be based on the visuals. I thought this was interesting. Apparently there's going to be a new Joe and Mac game. Microids announced that they're working on a remake of one of the Joe and Mac games, and that's coming next year. I know there's some people in the Switch Headz Discord that are Joe and Mac fans, and David, you had to play a Joe and Mac game when you came on wrong.
Yeah. You guys were like, don't have David on the Pilot Wings episode. Let's put him on the Joe and Mac episode.
It's random.
I did not love that game personally, but I wonder if a new game would have gameplay improvements to it.
I hope so. Yeah.
Isn't that the point?
I don't know. Yeah. Sometimes people, the new ActRaiser is basically just
that's fair.
Just improved visuals, and that's it.
Yeah. Like when they do a remake, that's definitely like a question, because there is some clunkiness to the controls on those old Joe and Mac games that hopefully the controls feel better.
Yeah.
But we'll see. And then we have the September NPD numbers. Excuse me.
Bless you.
The NPD, we talk about this a lot. It's the U.S. sales. So here's the capitalism part of the show, if we haven't already gotten into that quite a bit.
Let's go.
But Matt Piscatella, who works for NPD, shares this information on Twitter. And they stated a lot of really interesting stuff. This is probably the biggest one for us Switch heads, is that the Switch has been the highest selling console in the US for a long time. And that finally is no longer true. The PS5.
It's like 33 months or something.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. The streak is broken at 33 months of the Switch being the top console sold. So like PS5 is now leading in both dollars and units, but I think for the year the Switch is still leading in terms of units. And I would also point out this is September, so the OLED model was announced, and we've been waiting for it since June. So if these are knowledgeable consumers that are like, I'm not rushing out to buy a Switch in September, because if I wait just a couple weeks, I could get.
Would they count pre-orders in those sales numbers?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
I don't know how that works. That's a really interesting point. We should ask Matt, because he answers questions on Twitter.
We should have Matt Piscatella on the show.
I would love that.
Yeah, and just try not to do this. Yeah.
Yeah. I will bring up Matt Piscatella later in the show too, I think, if I remember to. But some of the other interesting things in the NPD, if y'all saw anything else, please share. But I think something that we don't talk a lot about on this show because we're sort of console focused. We don't really talk about, PC gaming or VR or mobile gaming, is that one of his points for this month was how, like, US mobile gaming consumer spending has been exceeded 2 billion in like 8 of the 9 months of the year.
Wow.
And he talks about just generally how mobile hardware sales and subscription services are what like really is a big chunk of like video games. Because every once in a while you hear a number like, the movies make this much money and video games make like 10 times that or whatever now. Or not 10 times, but it's like
That's
3 or
how
4
you get,
times.
That's how you get to those numbers, is having a gaming device in everyone's pocket, I guess.
Yeah. And probably, gacha games and mobile spending being however it is. So anyway, I thought that's interesting. And just like we always talk about, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is always at the top of these sales charts in the NPD. It's like, it's like up there in the top sellers generally, and it's even without digital sales. WarioWare did pretty well. That's another Nintendo thing. It was one of the highest launches for that series in a while.
Did Monkey Ball chart?
When did Monkey Ball come out?
Maybe it's a little too recent. Yeah.
I think it was at the very end of the month / early this month for the official release, right?
Yeah, that's the reason.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
We'll have to check back in on that.
That's the reason. Yeah. Next month, it's going to be number 1, guys. Just you wait.
I can't wait.
Sometimes I feel like I'm just screaming into a ball-shaped void talking about Monkey Ball with you folks. I'm not going to lie. But there are literally dozens of us Monkey Ball fans.
And then that brings us to a news item that was part of the Animal Crossing Direct, but we're going to kind of separate out so that we can focus mostly on the Animal Crossing content in our main topic. And that's that in the Animal Crossing New Horizons Direct, they showed off the Nintendo Switch Online Expansion Pack pricing, and also a part of it that it will also be talking about later, which is that if you get the expansion pack, you get the Animal Crossing paid DLC, the what's it called? Happy Home
Paradise.
Happy Home Network.
Happy Home Paradise.
Paradise. I put the wrong thing on here. Great. There we go. Happy Home Paradise. So this has caused a big uproar on the internet, as Nintendo can do for video game fans. What do y'all think? So the pricing is $50 a year for individuals, whereas it is $20 for the regular package, and $80 a year for the family, whereas it's $35 for the regular package.
So I'll start on this one at the but with the potential of sounding like a massive cuck and a further shill than we've already discussed that we all are. I think so. Here's the deal: Nintendo certainly Nintendo'd this up, right? Like nobody expected that it would be more than double the price of the regular. And I will admit to also having a decent amount of sticker shock. Whenever this thing, I was watching the Animal Crossing Direct on my phone, I had to pause it on the screen and just like look at it for a solid like 3 minutes while I was taking in this information, right? Like
I missed it. Yeah, the first time.
Yeah. Like I was like, what? Wait, what? Wait, so it was confusing to me. But at the same time, I think a lot of people are really blowing this out of proportion a lot.
Of course,
I think people, anytime Nintendo announces anything, like you said, Patrick, people are up in arms, right? But it's like, do we not expect that at this point? You know what I mean? Like, it's like, I mean, I mean, I felt like I was saying beforehand, I was like, hey, whatever price you think it's going to be, add $5 or $10 because this is going to be more. Everyone's like, oh, it's just going to be an extra $10 a month, surely. And it's like, there's no way Nintendo's going to do that when they know they already have like a captive audience and a lot of people that will pay whatever. So I'm not defending that. But also, I mean, at the same time, you know, I may be a Nintendo cuck and people might call me that for like defending this pricing structure, but at least I'm not the one paying $50 a year for this. I pay $10 a year now with this family plan because I'm smart and I took advantage of a deal when it was there. Okay. And I'm not just going to be like, oh, Nintendo says I pay 50, so I'm just not going to buy it. It's like, fuck that. I'm going to pay $10 with 7 homies, some of which I don't even know in person. One of the guys on my Nintendo Switch family plan, I've never met. The only time I ever talk to him is once a year, and it's to collect on NSO, on Venmo, right? It's like, just do that, you know, find a website where you can connect with other people and like split a family plan.
Join the Super Switch Headz Discord.
Yeah.
There are few of us who have recently said that there's space. I have space on my family plan, and I would be happy to add somebody who PayPal's me or Venmo's me $10 or whatever. Yeah.
So anyway, sorry, I kind of bogarted that. What do you guys think about this?
Well, you also didn't really mention one thing, which is the Animal Crossing paid DLC, right?
Yes.
Like I can see this being very divisive for somebody like me who is excited about this paid DLC. Seeing that price was instantly like, no big deal, because I would have paid the $25 for that DLC. Probably you know what I mean? And I'm interested in the N64. Not a big deal.
You would have had to for you and anybody else who wanted that DLC in your family.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And I would definitely have to do that. I don't know how that works with, I think they actually even check it on one Switch now for that DLC. I'm not sure,
Probably.
but I now have a situation where Animal Crossing is being played across multiple Switches in my household and on different accounts, and everybody's excited about this DLC, and that's like a deal. Like that's a better deal for me. And like shout out to Ivy. Like Ivy's on my family plan, and they're gonna send me $10. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, like you said, David. Like this is gonna actually save me money, maybe. Like,
yeah. Like if you look at it in terms of like, oh, you get so many more games with like Xbox Live Gold, which is fucking debatable, by the way. The shit that you get with games with gold every month rather, is like, okay, I guess it's like bottom of the barrel. Like they're trying to push everybody over to Game Pass anyway, which is $15 a month, not $10 a year if you're on a family plan, right? So it's like, when you start to make the comparisons, I can start to see it, but also I don't know, man. I feel like there are a fair amount of YouTubers out there right now that are stoking this controversy for hits because I think that these are doing really well on their like YouTube channels and kind of stirring the pot on this a little bit. But I think it's not as big a deal as everybody's making it out to be.
let me say one more thing. I definitely want to hear from Matthew and Summer because we've been dominating this, David. But like, I think that a lot of people are upset about just Nintendo's online infrastructure.
That's
and
fair.
that's coming out in all the comments I'm seeing on articles about this, of people being like, I can't even party up in Splatoon. I can't, party up in Mario Kart, and you're raising your prices and you're not fixing these base issues. And I think there's something to that.
That's fair. Yeah.
And I feel like people are angry about a deeper rooted issue about this, if that makes sense. But I would like to hear Matthew and Summer what y'all think.
Summer.
Like the individual pricing is ridiculous. I hope we can all agree to that. And the fact that it's like an option when the family option exists, like I definitely see that perspective. The individual pricing is ridiculous when, even if like you are interested in the Animal Crossing DLC, like yes, you would just buy that and then emulate N64 games, right?
Yeah.
They are games that are readily accessible on the internet. That being said, like, yes, the family plan is a no-brainer. Like you said, you have people, David, that you don't even know because if somebody doesn't pay you, like as the administrator or the head person on the account, you can just flick them off, right?
Exactly.
You can just take it off the account and then just put somebody else on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
No loss, no foul.
Right, exactly. So I see that as just being like a duh no-brainer. And then similarly to Patrick, I'll just echo what you said. Like we've got 5 people on our family plan across 4 different Switches. So yes, just for the Animal Crossing DLC alone, instead of each of us individually paying $25, $50 covers all 5 of us for a year. That makes so much more sense. And then we also get the added bonus of N64 games on the Switch. So
Yes.
Yeah, Matt, what do you think about this?
We're all going to buy it. I mean, people are going to be up in arms for just a little while, but I don't know, man. I think when I really think about it, is Nintendo has a few options to present this numbers to their existing members. It's slowly increment the pricing over the period of several years, have different pricing structures, multiple options for customers, which confuses consumers. Like Netflix has like 3 or 4 packages, and it's all like you have to look at a graph and a spreadsheet to determine what's on what plan and what's not, and compare and contrast. And with all of those options, Nintendo is like, we're just going to skip straight past all of the incremental updates, the incremental price increases over time that other services done. Let's just like start off what we think the value is. And I think $50 on a family plan at $10 a person, I think that's fine. Assuming you have friends and family you can connect with.
and if you don't, get on Reddit. Like,
Yeah. Get on, find a place.
Seriously.
Exactly.
I think if you're, somebody who doesn't have those friends and is leery of like paying a stranger who then, you don't know if they're going to kick you off. I get that. Like, and if you're not interested in Animal Crossing, that's like the perfect storm of somebody that like should be upset about this. But, but then, like you said, Summer 2, just go emulate these games then. Like, I don't.
Yeah, as far as that's concerned, I mean, I kind of disagree with that a little bit. I mean, like I've got emulators out the wazoo. I've got a handheld emulator that I like to play games on. I've got a better version of Castlevania Harmony of Dissonance, like a fan mod that like removes the annoying like blue outline on the character that was made because the Game Boy Advance screen was so dark. You don't need that outline on a modern system. You know what I mean? So I play a fan hack of that. At the same time, I'm probably just going to play the fucking version on my Switch out of convenience.
Yeah.
I bought all that Castlevania collection again, even though I've emulated all those games before and I owned them on Game Boy Advance. I bought them anyway because of the convenience of having them on the Switch. And then there's also the benefit of playing online, right? Like playing these games online. Like, sure. I don't need these Genesis games again because I bought the Genesis collection, right? That having been said, now I can fucking play Sonic 2 online. Like that's lit.
Squad up for some Golden Axe.
Exactly. Well, I'm not gonna play Golden Axe online, but yes, if I wanted to, I could.
I will.
And it's like, yeah, okay, fine. I'll play with you, Patrick. You don't have to beg anymore. But
somebody, please, yes.
But anyway, what I'm saying is like, a while ago, people were like, please, Nintendo, I'll do anything. I just want to be able to play these games on my Switch. And then now they came out and they're like, it's $50 a year. A year, by the way, not $50 a month or whatever. It's like, and now they're like, oh, what? Yeah. Like, I would never, I'll just emulate. And it's like, weren't you guys just begging for this? So I don't know. I just kind of, I don't know, man. I don't see the big uproar, and I don't want to say that like, hey, anybody can afford this because I don't know everybody's financial situations. You know what I mean? Even $10 a year, maybe that's hard for some people. And I don't want to like assume anybody's financial situation. And on top of a million other things, I will say I wish Nintendo included Pokemon Home in this expansion pack tier. I don't know why people are paying for a subscription to Pokemon Home, and that's not bundled in. I think that's something they should absolutely do.
That brings up something. What do you think? Or Summer, do you want to say something to that?
I hate that you said that because now I'm mad.
Now exactly, Summer has changed their position.
No, I'm the same. I'm like, damn it.
Well, that's where the problem is with it for me, right? The problem for me is that this pricing seems fair given the fact that Nintendo will continue to add content and value to this. But there is literally nothing saying that they will keep doing that. You know what I mean?
Correct.
And I hope they do. You know, I would love if they added games past the N64. I looked into their exact wording, and I'm not convinced that they are going to add more games than the games they've already announced that they're going to add to N64. So I hope that's the case, but maybe not. Either way, I'm not going to like put my foot in the sand and be like $50 is too much when I can get it for 10. You know what I mean? Anyway, that's the end of the day where I stand on it.
Well, we should move on, but that does beg the question of, is more stuff going to come? And like it sets that expectation with this Animal Crossing DLC that maybe future DLC might be wrapped into this. And this is where Nintendo's like that whole episode we did on free updates, their secrecy and weirdness, and sometimes doing stuff and sometimes not, kind of hurts. And you know, if they do have plans to add stuff, it would be nice if they said that even vaguely. You know what I mean? Like,
yes, I'd love a roadmap of future N64 releases or whatever, right?
I think that would quiet down some of this if they said, you know, we will add more to this expansion pack. you know, even if it was just that.
It's a communication problem.
Yes.
We learned about this expansion pack for Nintendo Switch Online at the end of an Animal Crossing Direct. I think less people would be upset about this if they would have released the expansion pack pricing a day before Animal Crossing. Just talk about it, introduce it, and then have the Animal Crossing, and then talk about you get the expansion with it.
They were trying to soften the blow, man. I think they knew what they were doing.
It softened the blow for Animal Crossing fans, but didn't for anybody else. I think that's the problem. Well, we talked about that a lot. Is there anything else? And it's a big thing, though. Is there anything else anybody wants to say before we move on?
One last thing for me is that I was kind of glad to see that the Animal Crossing is included in this, because I was watching the Animal Crossing Direct and I was like, this DLC looks incredible, but I don't know that I'll play it enough to shell out $25 for it. Now that it's being included with the thing I knew I was going to buy anyway, fuck yeah, I'm going to play this DLC. I'm excited for it.
Well, that might be another interesting fact here, right? Like this might be, they want to drive people back to Animal Crossing. And this is a way to do it, you know?
But what happens if you get this happy home? I forget what you called it, Patrick, over and over again. What if you get it and you build it and you build the connection with those islands and you lose your membership? Like what happens?
They've actually said.
It's like it stays suspended until you decide to either renew it or purchase the DLC on its own.
It's actually a little bit better than that, because a big part of the DLC, and we'll talk about this in a second, but a big part of the DLC is you get access to this archipelago of islands, right? So you lose access to the archipelago, but all the stuff that you unlocked because of the DLC and brought back to your regular island, you get to keep all that. So it's kind of half and half. Like if you have it for the first year and then it lapses, you still get to use stuff that you wouldn't have had if you never had the DLC at all.
Yeah, I think that's a good solution. But anyway, I think that's it then for our news and rumors. And we're going to dig deep into that Animal Crossing Direct. It was a big one after this break. We are back, and we are talking about Animal Crossing New Horizons. On last Friday, October 15th, Nintendo gave us an Animal Crossing New Horizons Direct, where they gave a ton of information about the version 2.0 update and some paid DLC that I don't know the name of, coming in November. I do know the name of now, but it's a joke now. So this was a lot. It was I think it was 20-ish minutes, 20 plus 23 minutes. And the first, honestly, I thought it was over. Like when the update, like they were like, and that's the last final update. And I was like, oh my God, that was incredible, you know? And then total fake out, you know, they come with this paid DLC. Just kind of big picture. Do y'all agree? Did y'all think this was like a lot? Like I was overwhelmed. Like during the paid DLC discussion, I kind of tuned out. I was like, info overload. I watched it a second time and realized a bunch of stuff in the paid DLC that I didn't even catch the first time because of that.
Yes. Afterwards, I was like, this is so much. Like almost to the point that I'm like, it's all going to drop at once and I'm not going to know what to do because there's going to be so much to do. Like, I almost wish it was like, and I guess some things will be like a process of unlocking, but still, it was like, oh, it's so much.
Yeah. All coming November 5th, by the way, if you didn't already know that. Yeah, I know. Well, before we get into like the nitty gritty of it, like this has got, I've, dabbled off and on Animal Crossing, even though I've kind of drifted away from it. But this has definitely got me coming back hard. I know Summer, obviously you're playing it. David, you even said on the Discord you're coming back, right?
Yeah. I mean, this, to answer your question from earlier, yes, it was overwhelming, the amount of information they showed, but also like, this is what I've needed, man. Like the updates have been so small and they're like, hey, you can dive into the water now. And it's like, okay, I don't really, that's not going to bring me back into playing. You know what I mean? And I've had this thought in my head about just how scary it's going to be to face these villagers after over a year of not talking to them. And like an update like this, that is this big and has this many new things. This is exactly what I needed to come back into the game.
Take it from David. It takes a big update to face your fears.
That's what I've always
said. Face your friends.
Yeah.
But wild card here, Matthew, I haven't heard much from you about this. Is this like,
I don't know. I'm not sure. This is so much. I also have watched this twice and learned new things the second time around, watching the direct, that is. Frankly, I'm a social gamer, so if everyone's playing it in Switch Headz, and we're having more fashion shows, and we're having parties, catching some fish, expanding our rooms to make it really big for no reason.
Yes,
I'm in.
Well, then we're gonna bully you into this.
Hopefully, not as much bullying is required as it was for Fire Emblem.
Cool. Well, then let's get into the nitty gritty. There is so much. Summer, you keep us on point if we miss something here that you want to talk about.
I did not watch this a second time, and I wish I had, because it definitely did kind of wash over you.
Yeah. Like I was super, like I made notes during it, and like I was super detailed for the first like 2/3 of it. And then the DLC came and I was just like, there's DLC.
Yeah, they could have even not had the paid DLC and I think people would have been happy.
Yes.
I think the strategy of just like having so much in one update is so fascinating. Like this could have been many, many updates over the past 2 or 3 months.
But it would have been like what David said. They would have added the Roost and he'd have been like, there's a coffee shop, I don't need to join it. And then they would have added Cap'n, he'd be like, it's just a guy at the pier, I don't need it. And then they would have added
he
one
takes
other
you
thing
somewhere, but yeah.
Right,
he doesn't just like show up and talk.
But I do think that I think they did the right thing, because now everybody wants to come back and play it because there's so much. I think if this had been all doled out slowly, each one would have felt like not enough to bring you back in if you weren't already playing it. I think the slow up, this is something I've been thinking about, like, because some people were talking about, should this have been a slow rollout or not?
Yeah.
And Matthew, does feel like a lot, but like, I think they did a slow rollout and then their player, base dropped off. And at some point they were like, okay, our regular players have hit this marker. Let's hold all these updates and put them all out when we have the DLC. And then that will get a big pushback to this game and new players and whatever. I think that's what they did. That's like a theory I have.
That makes sense. They got probably have the data to support that initiative.
That's what I think, right? Like they might pay attention to that, but I don't know. I think it's an interesting thing to talk about. So if y'all want to talk about more now, we can, but maybe we'll get into it first.
Yeah. Well, the only thing to add on to that before we get into the details is like, this is the last one. Right. This is like the big final major free update to the game. Yeah. And they've also said that the paid DLC will also, there's not going to be more paid DLC after this. That this is like the final major update to the game. This is the last free update we're getting, and the DLC is the last major final update. So it's like, we might get little things here and there, but I think a lot of people assumed that this game was going to be Nintendo's kind of game as a service ongoing game, and it seems like they decided, no, we want to stop development of this game, essentially, you know what I mean, or at least like not just have it be something that we continually update until who knows when. I think they were like, it's been like almost a year and a half since it came out.
More than, or roughly, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. And so it's like, I think that was a decision that Nintendo made to be like, okay, we're going to just put all our eggs in one basket instead of continuing this for a very long time.
Yeah.
Let our team free up to a different project or something.
Yeah, I have thoughts about that, especially in relation to what they're doing with Harv's Island and how it informs what you're saying about this is the end of DLC. And I think we'll talk about what they're doing at Harv's Island, the photography island, when we get to that update.
Well, then let's start with what they opened with, which was the thing they had already announced, which is the Roost, the coffee shop, and the museum. And I think this was a really powerful moment in the direct where Isabel walks in.
Yeah.
She's getting a break.
She deserves it, man.
Mr. Nook said that I deserved a break, so here I am.
And in addition to Brewster and the Roost, like they showed off that you can use Amiibo in the coffee shop, which I think is a big thing. Like Amiibo, like I have these Animal Crossing Amiibo behind me that you can maybe see right here, and you can't really do much with some of those characters, but now there is some things that I can do. I can invite them to the coffee shop, and that's pretty cool. So I'm excited about that.
And the cards work for that as well, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and you can meet your friends in the coffee shop. Party in the coffee shop, Matthew. You're invited.
Well, I'll be there.
We could have open mic. We could have open mic night in the coffee shop.
Wow.
Animal Crossing.
Oh man, I try to keep my professional life and my game life separate.
I also love the fact that in the coffee shop to get to use the Amiibo that you're talking about is you go to a little phone booth and it says you contacted the Amiibo call center, which makes me think that there is an actual Amiibo call center with employees working somewhere.
That's really cute. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I do love that the way that they opened up with this, it almost made it feel like, okay, here's your coffee bird. So anyway, here's everything else. Because this was like, right? Because everybody was like, I want the Roost, I want Brewster. And they were like, okay, fine, here it is. But also here's a bunch of other stuff.
Yeah.
And as it turns out too, it's like this is the least thing. This is the thing I'm like least excited about.
Now,
you know, it's like great that there's going to be a play. I mean, for me, you were right, but you hit it right on the head at the very beginning. I'm just happy to be able to hang out with Isabel in a non-professional setting. You know?
Yeah, she deserves it.
Yeah, she seems like she's got a great personality. Yeah.
Another big missing thing and long speculated thing is Cap'n at the Pier. Can take you on boat tours and serenade you. And like you said, David, it's not just the boat driving around on the boat.
Right.
Yeah, you can go to new islands, and this is kind of like the Mystery Islands, except maybe what the Mystery Islands should have been, where there's different seasons and different times of day and different plants and that kind of thing. We'll see how what that's like, but that's cool that's happening.
Yeah, I'm a little confused as to what exactly is the difference other than like, are they just adding in more variables that can be randomized, I suppose?
I think so. Because the first island that they showcased using this specific service was an island that had these climbable vines. And they showed you both climbing the vines and pocketing them into your inventory. So I wonder if that's another like new thing. Because partly during the direct, they said like there are parts of the update that you may experience on your island that we didn't necessarily talk about today. And I'm like, oh, maybe that's one of those things is I'm going to get to put these climbable vines on my island.
I wonder if there will be an island you can go to that's like just Mario stuff. Like just like
come to our island.
Yeah, is that what it is on you? Flags and warp pipes everywhere.
Oh.
Yeah.
There are a lot of them, yeah.
Yeah.
That'd be funny though.
Yeah, that'd be great. I mean, just like show up on Mario Island. That'd be great.
I just want to mention really quick that this was the first part where I teared up during the direct. There were like I was holding back tears like almost the entire time, but specifically when I saw Captain and when he started singing,
his little sea shanty. Yeah.
Oh, I missed that specifically because it's just like such a sweet moment, you know. I'm like, oh.
Yeah, they've really a big theme of this last free update is finally bringing back features that were in old Animal Crossing games that are now like nostalgic for older Animal Crossing players. You know,
Oh yeah, things that were staples.
Mm-hmm.
So the next one is Harv's Island getting updated to have a plaza with shops for the people that typically visit. And I think this is where, Matthew, you had a comment maybe you wanted to make in respect to that, right? Like Sahara and some of the characters who usually just kind of randomly show up on your island once a week or whatever are now there permanently.
All the rotating shops that would come to your island originally kind of in various schedules or in rotation are now they'll have their own island. They'll be on Harv's Island. That just tells me pure speculation is that at some point Nintendo's going to close services for Animal Crossing and kind of the rotating algorithms that tells these characters to visit your island. But now you can just go to a different island to see them and to experience what they're offering or shop with them or get your fortune told.
I think it gives you a good in game too. Like it's been really hard to get the art with Red being one of those random things because it's random who you get, it's random when you play or whatever, and you know maybe
random if it's fake or real.
Yeah, and like having a permanent spot for Red is like maybe one of the more exciting things for that. Like because he's like, oh, I can finally finish out that museum.
Yeah, this is great in like 3 ways. I think this is just a great quality of life improvement so not having to just like wait for everything. Maybe I shouldn't have said a number because I don't know if it's exactly 3, but I also think that it's great that it's like, I don't know, it just adds, okay, yes, 3 ways. A, it's quality of life. You have a place you can go and you know you can go there all the time. B, it adds basically the city from City Folk into this game, right? Like kind of like having a storefront. It just reminds me of the city in that game, right? And having a place where all these stores can like live together. And I love that they're all kind of like food truck kind of trailers. You know what I mean? Like I think it looks like the side of a music festival, you know, if you like go by the fence. I love that. Also, it's great because it actually gives me a reason to want to go to Harv's Island.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I just never really cared enough to take pictures with people in a room to do Harv's Island. I never did the wedding update stuff. You know, I didn't really enjoy that much. It wasn't enough to really bring me back in. I like tried it once and I was like, fuck this. But now that there are all these people on the island and there's all Harv stuff and this returning dog, what's the dog's name who has joined Harv?
Harriet.
Yeah. Excuse me.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah. Yeah, please take it away from there.
From the fandom side of things, I just want to freak out is as soon as we saw Harriet and then when we saw them interacting and I was like, they are a bisexual power couple and I will not
very good.
And I will not be taking criticism or questions. Like they're so cute and perfect and Tortimer is alive.
Yes. And looking old as fuck.
There was so much speculation. Like people could not believe that you could place furniture like outside on your island. That when we saw a preview of a gravestone, everybody assumed that Tortimer was dead. And I am convinced that he is here just to say no, he is alive.
Right.
Yeah, because like what does Tortimer even do? Did they even explain?
His service is not clear. No.
It's like advice or something. Yeah,
I think it has something to do with item inventory, like while you're on Harv's Island, but which makes me think that maybe there is something else on Harv's Island. Again, they said there are other things still that we didn't say. But yeah, that.
Yeah, so Tortimer comes back, and Katrina, the psychic.
Yes, her.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yes.
So it's just nice to have another hub. You know what I mean? You want to like a little bit of an escape from your own island, which you've been on for years now. You know, it's nice to have like another hub of this kind of city or whatever that you can go to that's filled with life and not just like one dog's house. You know?
Yeah.
It's like a mall.
Yeah. Katrina being added also does remind me, I guess that means that they're re-implementing the luck element, or maybe if it was there, I just didn't realize. I don't know if that's something that had been data mined that had been discussed previously, but the whole point of going to get fortunes from Katrina is that depending on what she tells you, it implements, it like activates whatever your like luck stat is for that day, which can affect
item
things.
drops or whatever.
Yeah, it can affect like the ratio of balloons and what's in those balloons. It can impact how much you trip while you run on your island, things like that, like the fish that you catch, all sorts of things. And I don't know that had been right. And then she'll also tell you too that there are certain like clothing items that you can wear to affect your luck as well. That was a common thing. So I imagine that means that they're bringing all of that back too.
Yeah. The next thing they showed off is the group stretching on the plaza. So what jumped out for me about this was, again, seeing Isabel outside and seeing the dodo, the dodo that works at the airport counter outside stretching. Was nice to see the dodo get outside of his desk as well.
Brewster was there too.
Yeah, that's right. And then they indicated that you can use motion controls for this. I don't know if that means that this will actually constitute exercise or not, or if it's just like this.
It's just stretching.
Just like moving.
Listen, I think it's really cute that Nintendo acknowledged that people who play Animal Crossing are playing it for long periods of time. And yes, you don't have to do it and you don't have to use the motion controls, but they did give you an option, and
I love it.
Give you the chance.
I love that this has motion controls. At
so
first, I saw this and I was like, okay, so what? You can like press A and stretch with your people.
No.
And then they're like, oh, no, you can go like this. And I was like, that's great, man. Because every fucking morning I should be doing my stretches and I'm not. And it's like, so, I mean, I'm not going to wake up and play Animal Crossing first thing and be like,
but
oh, yeah,
some
stretching.
people do.
But it's like, yeah, but some people do. And this is a very Japanese thing as well. This is a Japanese cultural thing. Like, you know, every morning in a lot of Japanese offices, like at work, everybody in the office does big group stretching, right? So this is a cultural thing out of there, and it's really nice to see it implemented here. And stretching is just so important throughout your day. And in the morning, it's a great thing to do. So I think this is a really sweet, very wholesome addition to this game. Yeah,
I'll be using it.
Yeah,
and
I also like the part of group stretching where some of them are on beat. And then there's like one or two people that are completely offbeat.
The bunny was off.
I wonder if that's a personality thing. Sorry, not to get all like super into it again, but like
that's why you're here.
That's why you're
Let's go. Take us deep in the lore.
Now I'm gonna have to go through and watch it again to pick up like which ones were offbeat and see like what their personalities are and if that's something that maybe impacts that. Because I wouldn't be surprised anyway.
So the next thing they showed off was ordinances, which I think is something that's coming back from previous games too, right? I not being an Animal Crossing head. So you can then encourage or force things to happen around your schedule, which is one of the limitations, for people who may work at different times and get a chance to play this game at odd hours or whatever. That's a difficult thing about shops closing and that kind of thing, right? So this is going to help those people out. Yeah. Is there anything else that it provides, Summer?
There's a couple of other ordinances that you can use too. So if you're someone who is already used to the schedule and you don't need the, scheduling options, there's also there's a beautification one where the residents will pull weeds and water flowers, and it increases your chance of sprouting hybrid flowers if that's something that you're still working on towards doing. And then there's also the bell boom ordinance, which will increase the prices of everything. So it will increase the prices of things for you to purchase, but it'll also increase the sell back. Previously, it also increased the number of hot items per day that you could sell back to make more money. So those are the other ones that I think I saw on that list anyway.
Is that inflation?
Basically. Yeah. So, it's really helpful if you are trying to work on your mortgages because it doesn't impact your mortgage prices, right? So if you're really working on selling things back and you're working on, so that will be super helpful when we're trying to purchase all of the characters on Harv's Island to give them their permanent spaces, right? Because that's something we're going to have to build up towards with money.
Right.
With bells. And so that bell boom is probably what I will be using to make sure that I can do that efficiently.
Yeah, I love just first of all, this is just great quality of life improvement around the board. This is really, really great. I also love that you can just force people to like be night owls and just strip your villagers of their personal liberties and and act according to your will. I think that's really hilarious.
Well, it affects the shop hours too, so maybe it's
Yeah, no, for sure. It's just like I'm a night owl, so everybody's a night owl.
Yeah, no, yeah.
It's funny.
So the next thing they showed off is that you can customize your house in new ways, the visual appearance of the exterior, and then that there's going to be more storage, which is another just boost for people that are really into this game. And I think that the exterior of your house is a big thing. Like being able to update that. That's definitely like, ooh, that was cool, because there wasn't much you could do on the exterior other than roof previously. The next big one was growing crops. So this was something that was data mined, and then we got pumpkins and everybody's like, oh, is that all we were going to get? And then now finally there's another 4 or 5 ones that they showed off, at least, of tomatoes, wheat. I didn't make good notes on this. A handful of other.
And they did say that there was going to be more than what they showed as well.
That's cool. And then
we Stardew Valley now?
Yeah, that's what that was literally. As soon as I saw that part, the first thing that came out of my mouth was, I don't have to play Stardew Valley anymore.
Yeah.
You still can't ranch in this game, though.
Yeah,
I guess.
no, sorry, Concerned Ape. I will still be playing Stardew Valley.
And then you can cook and create your own food items, and there's recipes, and that looks cool. Just like that, you can create all these new items and a whole new crafting system with that with growing adds like a level of depth.
That's kind of something that's going around right now is people don't really know what the point of making the food is other than to just eat it, which is funny.
And have it look good.
Yeah, and have it sit on your table or whatever.
Well, because people have been asking for more food decor options. So being able to have a variety of foods at a table that like makes sense to what is going on instead of just like the seasonal foods that are rotating. Like,
right. Yeah.
We're not just having steamed buns for every meal anymore.
Right.
In Animal Crossing. Right.
I just wonder if there'll be any like gamified, element of that, And
they did show, so like when you eat a piece of fruit, you get 1 increase on your ability, right? It gives you the 1 increase. They did show that when they ate
just like with fruit.
It was 5.
Pizza thing or whatever. That
probably depends on the recipe, like is how much it's going to increase your.
That makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And then next off, they showed the Pro Decorating license, where this is something purchasable with Nook Miles, I believe, that you can then gives you more design options in the houses, in the interiors, where you can add lighting and accent walls, which those 2 things right there can add a lot. And maybe there's more to this too, but that seems pretty big. And also, I noticed when they showed this off that there's a Pro Construction license, and they showed off new fence recipes.
Finally, we're getting the white picket fence that we saw in all of the original promotional materials. Everyone's been asking, where is the white fence?
Here it is.
So funny.
Now you can customize all your fences. Plus, there's more fences. I think that's really nice.
A pretty interesting one was this updated camera mode where you kind of go into a first person view and you can finally take pictures. Like, I don't know, whenever I try to take a picture, it's always a little awkward. And then this feels like this is going to make that a lot easier.
Just walking around the island in first person looks really trippy.
Yeah. Right. And because they give like different reactions to the villagers when you walk up to them with your camera, and then they'll like pose for it, and then you can set it up in tripod mode and then take a photo with them. I just think it's so cute. And my brain immediately went to, like all of the possibilities of being able to show off your island in new ways. And I don't know, my brain is going to like, what kinds of like games can I like enact, or like storytelling, all that kind of stuff on my
with
island,
the new
with
angle,
the different camera modes. Mm-hmm.
And then custom designs can be used for flooring and wallpaper that can now be used for clothing. So that was cool. They showed a nice little villager and person wearing the same custom design there.
We sound of music now. You know, she makes clothes out of drapes.
Yeah,
guys remember that?
Yes.
You can make everybody wear the same thing that you design. And then more hairstyles, new reactions, new Nook Miles items of things that are returning from previous games. That's correct, Summer?
Yeah, so I got really excited and I had to like pause every single time because I was like looking at all of the names of everything that was the Nook Miles listings because they're all things that used to be public works projects in New Leaf. So in New Leaf, you couldn't decorate the outside, like the main part of your town, like outdoors. You could only decorate inside your house. And if you wanted to implement structures, you had to make it a public works project through Isabel that everyone paid for. You're the only one paying for it. It's just like how the bridges and inclines are now. So it's going to be cool to see a lot of those things come back in this form. Things like windmills, because the wind turbines aren't quite cutting it, and more kinds of fountains and displays, archways I saw in there. So there's going to be so many more.
I feel like
outdoor things.
This might even be where a lot of the update is, right? I feel like they didn't even scratch the surface of a lot of the stuff that they'll be adding for new items.
Stuff. Yeah. I can finally use my 170,000 Nook Miles.
Yeah. And then you're gonna be able to create storage sheds throughout the island where you can access your storage unit
from outdoors. Yeah,
great idea.
And also drop little ATMs where you can get Bell or ABM or whatever they called it.
Thank you.
ATM.
Where you can get bells. And then the next big one was gyroids. A lot of people were hoping for this.
Gyroids are back and they look better than ever.
Oh my gosh. Can we talk about how much better they look though? They used to be so freaky looking. I mean, like they were fun.
They're still kind of freaky looking.
But
they're like colorful and fun now.
They are so cute and they're customizable. Oh my gosh. But yes, they are so as soon as they were like, what are we going to dig up? Is it a fossil? And I was like, oh my God, is it a gyroid?
Yeah.
It's a gyroid.
This has been something people have been asking for since day one as well.
Right. Everybody was like, where are the gyroids?
Yeah.
Well, they've been cooking underground.
They're like sandworms.
Cicadas.
Yeah, they had to,
I love that. I love that you can put them on like tables and shit inside and show them off. It's really cute.
And they will like create new harmonies to classic songs, which is something they've always done, but I'm sure that they've made some new ones with this game, and I'm very excited to hear like all the different kinds of combinations, especially depending on how many there are, because I'm sure there's at least 80, just like with the bugs and fish. So there's going to be so many different ways to customize like different sounds and harmonies to songs we've already heard.
And they showed a villager on their couch just kicking it with a bunch of gyroids playing that looked super stoned. That villager had just lit a fat one
out of their mind,
out with some gyroids.
Absolutely out of their mind.
Are gyroids like sentient creatures?
Yes. So debatable. Like you have Lloyd, right? Yeah, and like we could dig into more of the like lore of Animal Crossing and like what gyroids are and like how much of a soul they possess and why they possess souls. There's a lot of like fan theories, and that kind of stuff is laced into a lot of Animal Crossing, but especially with the gyroids, that kind of like brings up a lot of the more like not dark but like gray kind of stuff. I love it. Yeah.
Moving through this, the wooden ladder setup kit is a new tool. You can put ladders on your island.
Permanent ladders is such a good fucking idea.
So when you exhaust your inclines, well, guess what? You can make even more kinds of inclines. They just look different.
Love it.
And presumably those vines we discussed earlier, but we'll see. We'll see.
I'm going to have a jungle area. It's going to be.
Yeah, that's such a good idea. That's one of my least favorite things to do is whip out my ladder and put it away every time I want to go up and down a thing.
And then arguably the best part of this update, navigating narrow spaces in
yes. Let's go. Let's fucking go.
It just means better design, right?
Yeah.
Like, a lot of us were already designing our rooms that way, and then you couldn't use
You
them.
just can't move them.
You
Yeah.
just couldn't sit down on your couch or whatever.
Because
it was the-
for smarter design.
It's
Yeah.
the perfect setup to have your couch right next to that other couch with your coffee table there, but then you couldn't go in there. Yeah.
Yeah, that was low key the best part of this whole direct for me was tight spaces that you can navigate.
I can't wait till someone builds like a maze where you just have to like shimmy your way through, like take like 10 minutes
The whole
just
time. Yeah.
Oh, I
navigating.
love that.
Yeah. Matt, that's your goal now.
Just
Whenever we
it'll
start this
be
game.
a great KK slider song with a bunch of graboids.
Yeah, there you
go. So then we've got new interactions with villagers. They can invite you over. They can drop by your house. It looks like.
That
This
seems
was
a
the
little
part-
problematic, though. Can we agree? A villager just showing up without knocking and being like, "Is it cool that I'm in here?"
Wow. So I was about to say that this is when I actually started crying because this was the part that I missed the most.
This is 2021. You get text first.
Yeah, you got to text me, man.
Man.
Yeah.
Knock
That
on the
was-
door or something.
So that was probably my favorite part of New Leaf was when Flo would just stop by and would be like, "Hey, I brought you something. Like, you want to share some cake?" And we would just hang out and chat. And then when other villagers approached you, they would it was kind of like a date where they would ask you what time works best for you, and you would tell them what time works best for you. And then I would actually set an alarm in my phone to make sure that I didn't miss out on going to Aurora's at 6:00 before I had dinner. This is a big thing that people have been asking for as far as like more interactions. This means that we're going to get more dialogue, and hopefully it'll be like in Wild World where we actually get more like backstory with some characters and get to know more about them.
That would be nice.
Yeah. So, sorry, David, but I personally love.
Hey, it's
this
all good.
part.
I just don't want to be caught with my pants down in my house. Okay,
I'm halfway through wanding here.
Oh my god.
Oh, okay. So that's gonna be a lot of. I mean, people make like whole shows with their Animal Crossing islands, right?
Yeah.
When they're taking recordings, so that's already like a whole skit I can see happening now.
Yeah, yeah.
Because of this.
Well, that was the official, version 2.0. I think they also showed new villagers in there, but they didn't specifically say it, and they're showing
No.
off, and something we'll talk about in
Yeah.
a little bit.
We know some of them. There's
Yeah,
a very
because
cute
of
new bunny. Yeah.
the thing.
I think interesting what they show on the splash screen at the end of the free DLC presentation. They say it's the last major free content update. So we're probably going to see some other free updates, just not in this major package, however they
Right.
measure
Which
major.
almost begs the question too, like, would you have considered any of the updates previous to this one a major update, or were they all minor updates?
They were all minor because
I
of
would
the
say
versioning
so.
number as well. Like,
Right, exactly. So I'm sure we're going to continue to get 2.1.2. Like, we're currently on 1.1 point something. So
Mhm.
I don't think they're done. They don't have a reason to be.
Yeah,
I've
we're on,
stopped trying to get my hopes up with Nintendo.
well, yeah, don't keep your hopes up, but like
Yeah.
there'll be minor things.
Come
Yeah.
on,
Yeah.
Nintendo, give us Worlds and Super Mario Maker 2.
Give me maybe just any fucking new style in Mario Maker 2. Anyway, this is an Animal Crossing episode. We'll talk about that later.
So the Happy Home Paradise DLC came after this like moment where you really felt like this thing was over, and then they had you
I
walk.
screamed.
They had you, but wait, one more thing, kind of a moment where they show the character walking to the airport and then go to work. And so we're going to pay Nintendo to work.
Can I quickly say before we get into the actual content of the update, whenever they were showing him going into the airport, I was like, finally, are they making it to where it's not bullshit to go visit your friends' islands?
Okay, I thought that too. Man.
I was like, yes, they're
Not gonna lie.
streamlining the online. And then they didn't
Like,
mention it at all. And it was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
No, but this is great. This is great. I love what they're doing with this.
So I don't have as good as notes here, so I'm relying on you, Summer, to help
Okay.
flesh this out. But the gist of this is that there is an archipelago of various other islands. This is a $25 DLC we already talked about, or you get it with NSO Expansion Pack, where you're going to be like an interior designer building dream vacation homes for I'm using the word villagers, but they're not the villagers on your island. They are other
Residents,
characters.
I guess. Or, yeah, characters is
Just
the word
some
that they
fucking
used.
other
Yeah.
animals.
Just a damn squirrel.
Right. So it's effectively an extension though to your island, because they effectively
Right.
become like more residents to you that you interact with. So if you are familiar with former entries in Animal Crossing, this is effectively a sequel to Happy Home Designer, which came to the 3DS after New Leaf. With New Leaf being my first Animal Crossing, at the time that game came out, I was very confused. I was like, oh, so you're just decorating homes. And I heard from a lot of other people that it was a lot of fun. I even had a student who changed his major to interior design after playing that game.
Wow.
But I was like, oh wow, this must be like a big deal. But it still wasn't like, it wasn't worth the $30 or whatever the price was at that time. More than what they want for the paid DLC now. And I would say that this DLC is more of a big deal than that singular entry was back then, because you get to take everything back to your island. And I would say like the things that you're doing are probably more impactful here on these other islands. Because of all of the different kinds of designs that you're getting to do and then getting to take them back with you. And sorry, I don't want to go on for too long,
No,
but like
that's fine.
some of the like, so the major things that they're incorporating, right, are wall dividers. I screamed when I saw that, the wall dividers and pillars to like
you can make
support the ceiling.
Kitchen.
Yeah,
that,
otherwise
like,
that shit just falls down.
Right. Well, it is a design thing, right?
Yeah.
And like counters of different levels, and there's ambient lighting that you can use different levels and different colors, and there's ambient sounds, and they thought of everything.
Yeah, and you can
With
reshape the houses to be long and skinny.
That's right. The dimensions you can pick
or
as
big.
well.
And I think that's where, it seems like, you correct me if I'm wrong, that you have one big room to work with for these homes. I could be wrong. Maybe there's multiple rooms.
It
we don't
seems
know.
that way. It doesn't seem like a full multi-room house.
And that's
certainly not an
where-
upstairs, downstairs, or anything like
That's
that.
where those dividers really come in, because then you can kind of section off this big area and have a little bedroom, a little kitchen, a little
Right.
living room or whatever.
Especially when roommates become part of the equation.
That's
Let's jump
hilarious.
into that.
Yeah.
So you can pair up quote unquote roommates or
now
couple.
I really don't
which
have
is
to play
Swingers
Stardew
Island.
Valley. Yeah.
Obviously the coupling factor here
Yeah.
without them naming it that. I said that to my wife and she's like, but they're calling it roommates. I'm like, yeah, but it's Nintendo. They have to call it roommates.
Exactly. Which
Friends of Dorothy.
it does make me wonder if they are going to allow for like quote unquote hetero roommates, right? Or are they all just going to be
Same
I
sex.
bet they will.
gay?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's
Yeah.
that's what I said. Like, you can gay couple. And she's like, well, not really. Right. I'm like, well, no, but like,
No, Nintendo said gays only.
And if you ain't playing Animal Crossing, you ain't gay.
Yes. We've known that. We've known that.
I think this is excellent for multiple reasons. I think this is excellent because I loved the process of designing the interior of my home, but also I don't want to change my home. You know what I mean? Like, I like how I have it set up. And so this gives me the opportunity to like kind of have a tabula rasa where I can like try different themes out on other stuff without having to like change what works, because my place is pretty fucking homey. I like it a lot. I wish I had multiple homes I could do, which I guess if I used multiple accounts, I could. Yeah, but then you got to grind up and get to the point where you've got all your rooms and everything, right? And so it's like, and I don't really want to go through all that, but this is a great way to do it. And then also I think this is, as somebody who, my main problem with Animal Crossing is that there just wasn't much for me to do anymore. And it didn't feel like, this feels like so much more gamified, right? This is like giving me this is like objective based. This is stuff you can tick off of a list. This is stuff to actually do. And this seems like the most gamey that Animal Crossing's New Horizon has been at all, you know? And I love that they're adding this in. This is just going to make someone like me, who is a more objective-based person, a lot more likely to come back and play the game.
Because when you're completing those jobs, you're going to earn a different kind of currency that you can only use while you're there.
Pokey.
That you can only only spend there, and it'll be on different kinds of rare items that you can't normally find. And they said that the more that you like level up while you're working there, that is when you get to bring those techniques back home with you to use in your own home. So I am personally excited for that because I'm not unhappy with my home, but I am excited to see what else I can do with my home, specifically those wall dividers. I very much am looking forward to that. And then also your residents will ask you maybe or you can ask them, I think it works both ways, to redesign their homes, which I'm thinking might finally be a solution to some of those first and second wave villagers that are still on your island who are stuck in those very bleak looking houses. That you can call them to say, I'm going to redesign your house now. You don't have a choice. You can't sleep in a sleeping bag anymore. This has to end. So I'm
just stripping away those personal liberties one at a time.
Wow, the laws in Animal Crossing are crazy. You start with ordinance, and then you're like, I'm designing your house. I'm ruining everything.
They asked for it. No, but the other big thing, kind of tying in what you were saying, David, about like, you know, sometimes people make a new profile to have a new place. Sometimes people use those buildings previously to like have a restaurant or something in a house. But now a huge thing in this DLC to me that seemed exciting, and to my son, he was like super pumped for this, is like you get to design a school in this community.
Restaurants.
You design a restaurant. We don't know how many. I don't know what that's going to look like in a hospital.
They like work in those facilities.
And then they use them.
They showed them like, and they have new dialogue depending on what they're doing.
Yeah.
Sorry. I forgot about that part. No,
it's super cool. You get to,
for our audio listeners, Summer is crying right now.
But I think this was really cool because, you know, one of the things, you know, that feels limiting in Animal Crossing is like you can build a restaurant in your house. Or in like a second residence house that you kind of set up, but nobody's coming in and sitting there. Or you could build an outdoor patio, but nobody's really using it.
Right.
And like being able to actually design this school where then the villagers go in and sit at the desks.
It's actually a living environment.
Yeah, is a lot cooler. And we'll see what that is like, but it looks pretty cool from this trailer.
And with amiibo functionality, you can also bring in other NPC characters to build their vacation homes too, right? So we got to see Isabel getting a vacation home. First she got a break to go up and get coffee, and now she gets a whole vacation home. I can't wait. I have my Celeste amiibo at the ready. She is getting a stargazing paradise.
Best Animal Crossing amiibo, by the way.
Yeah. Oh, right. Yeah. But like, so yeah, not to jump ahead, but like with the new amiibo cards too, like Flick.
Let's
Flick
do
is
it.
gonna get his bug paradise vacation.
Well, last thing on this DLC. So there's probably more to it because it was, you know, this is kind of where I was on burnout mode in this, and like, hey, this is too much info. I will deal with this later. But they did show off that, you know, that super cute manatee and monkey and like these sort of new characters, and that we're all already in love with the monkey and the manatee.
Yeah. I wonder how many people are going to name their resort the White Lotus also. Probably a lot.
But we'll move on from the paid DLC to that last thing they showed off, which is these amiibo cards, which is great to see. They're issuing a fifth set of amiibo cards. They're going to be coming out simultaneously with all this on November 5th. There's going to be a mad dash, I guess, at Target at 8 a.m.
Finally, Raymond in boxes will no longer be costing anyone 5 million, Nook Miles tickets.
So
accessible.
I guess there's 6 cards in a package. I'm going off of memory here. It's something like that. And there's 40 something cards. new cards. Thank you, Matthew. What can I ask a question just for practically for our listeners that maybe some of you might be best equipped to answer is how do you get these amiibo cards?
Oh, you go to Target.
Is it going to be a mad dash though? Are these going to sell
So,
out? Like,
I
what
imagine
can we
it will be.
pre-order? What does
I
it
think
look
it will
like?
be something similar. I am sure it'll be something similar to what happened with the Sanrio cards, where Target did handle it terribly. People made pre-orders or not. You weren't allowed to pre-order it, first of all. Like you could use the app to purchase them online for pickup, and then they weren't monitoring how many were flying off the shelves, and they didn't grab them in time. That being said, so like I was super upset. I made like a bunch of nasty TikToks about it, like because I was so upset about this, right? You can find the Sanrio cards now.
Oh, okay.
It's months later, but they are at every Target and they are well stocked. They made plenty more of them when they originally said that those specific cards were going to be a limited run. They have not said anything about these cards being a limited run. I am sure it will be difficult to get them initially. And then once the hype has died down, I am sure that they will be regularly available.
Have
So,
they
like,
reprinted old cards?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they've
Okay.
also reprinted old cards. That all being said, if you need to know how to do this without doing like printouts, let me know. If you there is a way that you can use your phone as a controller and you can just have all of the amiibo. Am I allowed to say this on this?
Yeah, we talk about.
I know we talk about emulation. There is a way that
You can pirate a card.
Yeah, you can pirate a card. It's super simple. There's an app that you can get for your phone. It should be available for both Android and iOS that makes your phone function as a Switch Pro controller. And then when you have all of the amiibo files on your phone, you can when you're prompted in a game to use the amiibo, you just it'll prompt you on your phone to go through your files to find the specific amiibo that you're looking for. And that was what I did on the day of the Sanrio cards being sold out because I was like, this fucking sucks. I'm just gonna fucking figure out how to do it my fucking self.
So of note, like my Target I went to recently, they had a big sign at the front of it that was like, we no longer stock NFL, MLB, etc. trading cards in person. Like you can order them online. So I think that these Pokemon cards, same sort of problem of people rushing that they're maybe we'll see what they do with this because I imagine it'll be the same.
Yeah, and that kind of stuff is in phases. My local Target also said that they were done selling Pokemon cards in person and they are back again. So like
after all the 50-year-old incels stopped rushing the
right.
shelves.
It happens. I think it happens in waves. I think it's also going to continue to happen as, we have stocking issues. Like everything is just going to kind of be in waves for a while.
Yeah.
But I would love to have the physical cards just because it's fun to have them. But in the meantime, like, let me know. I'll send you the links.
But these amiibo cards will be available at other retailers too.
Yes.
Not just Target. But Sanrio was
a Target exclusive. Mm-hmm. So that'll help.
So I think that is the major beats of all of this.
We hit them all. We hit them all, gang.
And the minor beats too.
Yeah.
Is there anything else anybody wants to say before we move on about this update? Just a big picture thing or anything about the paid DLC?
I'm surprised we got paid DLC.
Yeah.
Just to begin with, I thought we would get it much sooner. What has it been, a year and a half since Animal Crossing came out?
Yeah.
Maybe more.
Something similar happened with New Leaf, though. I don't remember how long it took, but it was when I was at the tail end of playing New Leaf that they made a big announcement about the DLC and
the Welcome Amiibo update.
Yeah, and I was like, oh, cool. I was like just about to stop playing this game and I don't have to stop. I am going to keep going.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I would 100% bet money on the fact that Nintendo did not plan for this DLC to come out this late. Animal Crossing released in March of 2020. I'm sure that they were planning for this to come out in 2020, maybe even, like at the end of the year, holiday or something.
That makes sense.
Like, and New Horizons was also originally supposed to come out in October of 2019. And that was when they made the announcement that, hey,
that's right.
Like, thank you for your patience. We really want this game to be right when it comes out. It's going to come out in March of 2020. And to that effect, I'm also remembering like people were begging Nintendo to release the game early. And I'm so baffled now, and I'm so grateful for all of this DLC to that effect, because like I did really enjoy the game when it came out. I think people got burned out because they were playing it like it was a full-time job.
Yes.
And
yes.
I was still finding ways to, like, recently, even before we got the announcements, I was like, I'm going to putz around in Animal Crossing every so often just to like do some small things here and there. And game design's hard, man. Game dev is hard. And I think they've been doing what they can. And to think, people have been roasting them this whole time, and they've been working on this entire time.
Yeah, that just reminds me of those Reddit threads in like April that were like, I put 400 hours into this game and it doesn't have enough content.
Like, no.
Do you remember that?
You just already did the content. Like,
yeah.
You already did the content. Like, that's the end of that sentence.
I will say, if someone was looking to get into Animal Crossing that never played the game before, now is great. Now is the time to do it, because it's like, for all the people that were complaining that the content is light compared to other games, now this is like a fully featured Animal Crossing game. You know what I mean? With this, and especially with the DLC, it's like, this is now a very attractive game to newcomers as well, I think. So I wonder if we'll see an increase in sales in the game, the base game as well, because of this.
I think so.
Yeah.
And to that point, I think we should take a break, because I have some things to say on that topic, sort of. Unless there's anything else anybody wants to add real quick.
Nope. Another long episode, baby. Strap in. For next week will probably be hopefully 90 minutes.
So we'll take a break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about the games we've been playing recently. So the game that I have been playing this week a lot is Metroid Dread, and we talked about it so much last week, and I think it's just a phenomenal game. I'm not as far along as a lot of Switch Heads, but I'm enjoying my time with it quite a bit, and I take a little bit longer with Metroidvanias. I like to jump around and mindlessly fight enemies. But what I'm excited to talk about right now is Animal Crossing, because that's what we've been talking about. And I'm very excited about Metroid Dread too, but I'm really on the Animal Crossing hype train right now. My wife and I and my son, we kind of had this discussion, and like we decided to start a second island on my Switch Lite that is going to be just me and my wife. And my son has like excitedly taken over the previous island and built all sorts of crazy shit.
That's so funny to me.
Everywhere. And he's playing it all the time, and my wife is playing the Switch Lite all the time. And our friend Austin came over, and he wanted to reboot his island. And so we were all kind of starting new islands and having these discussions about what do we name them. And and it was like March 2020 all over again. And my wife never got to be the primary resident, because I was, and so she's the primary resident on our Switch Lite, and she's like, oh, this is so fun. Like, I'm having these dialogue interactions that I never got to have, and experiencing this thing and going out to Mystery Islands and picking the villagers. And so it's been Animal Crossing pretty heavy over here. Austin came over to one of our islands and dropped off a bunch of stuff to then take to his new island. And so it's been really fun. And like you were saying, David, if you want to get into Animal Crossing, right now is a great time to start. There's so much early game stuff that if you started today, by November 5th,
you'll be ready.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So that's
Patrick,
what's been going on over here.
You said this casually, but appreciate the fact that Animal Crossing, video games generally, are such a big part of our lives that you had to have a conversation with your wife to understand boundaries and what you want the video game experience to be. That's such an important part of socially, but just a media consumption and just the dynamic of relationships and family and friends.
Yeah.
It's
And
cool.
I don't get to share video games much with my wife. We played through Famicom Detective Club together. We've played through I mean, years ago I got her on board with like a Lego Batman game or something, but like she's probably finished a few video games with me at best. But Animal Crossing she can get into, and it's fun to share that with her. And it's something occasionally I'll come out from doing something and my wife and my son are playing it, and I'm like, that's just like unusual and cool to see. And I think now with us having 2 islands too, like playing together is going to be a lot more fun because the local play sucks, but the online play, so like her playing on the Switch Lite and visiting his island, she can actually do things, which was always her complaint. And she never really enjoyed playing locally together because it's like whoever isn't the leader can't do shit. And when you play online, you can pick up things if you're best friends or whatever, or actually like go do things. And I think it's gonna up that here. So and then now the Switch Lite with me having the OLED she can just play Animal Crossing with it. It's great.
You got 3 Switches in your household now.
And
one
we
for
actually,
each family member.
Yeah, I actually feel like we kind of are using them, even though it's all a luxury item for me. It's kind of like actually a good timing for it. So
very good. I'll go next.
Matthew, can you give us a summary of what's
right
happening?
now, David is holding up his Nintendo Switch OLED model to a victory screen that he's playing as Sora. Sora won, he won, but the computer lost.
Yeah, that's right. So I just played my first round with Sora. He feels fine, a little floaty. I'm not going to lie. It's going to take a little bit to get used to. I'm going to say this, though, man. I'm a little worried because I just loaded this up on my OLED and immediately it showed me splash screens for every single DLC character. And I was like, wait, did my save file, something happen to it? And then it seems like, no, my save file is here, but some of the custom modes I made in Smash are missing. So it feels like not all of my Smash data downloaded correctly from the cloud. So I'm a little concerned about that. It was weird. It showed me like every single DLC fighter. But then I went in and all the fighters are unlocked and my World of Light progression is there. But some things are missing. So like I made a stamina mode, like custom Smash mode, that's just no longer in here right now.
Other people on Twitter were also having that issue where they showed like they just got their Switch OLED model and they had all the DLC. So it was like all the original like 12 characters plus the DLC and that's
right. Yeah. Like the
screen.
N64 cast and like Terry and Min Min and shit.
Yeah.
Anyway, I've only played like literally like 2.5 minutes of Sora, so that's not really worth talking about. I will say I did beat Metroid Dread this past weekend.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Loved the game. If you are interested in watching on Twitch, I streamed the last boss fight, which took me 2.5 hours to beat.
I watched your clips because I was curious about how long it took you in comparison to how long it took me.
How long did it take you, Matthew? Do you know?
About an hour and a half. Yeah.
Yeah. It took me an additional hour onto that. I was fucking up so badly. And if you ever want to see just where my latent rage resides, tune into that stream. I was saying some choice words.
Yeah.
And Rapatika was like, it seems like you have an anal fixation. The weird shit that I was saying.
Your technique of how you're fighting the boss, that's just so cool how Metroid plays, is like you were fighting the boss way differently and using different items and different movements than how I was playing. And I found it so
I was trying to do the cluster missiles a lot, right?
Yeah, I totally forgot about the cluster missiles.
Yeah. That's what for briefly Bordam was on as well, and he was telling me the same thing. He's like, I never even did that. And I was like, oh shit. And so actually it ended up working out a little better when I stopped only relying on that. And I was able to kind of like eventually get through it. But man, great fucking game, crazy lore implications. We should definitely do a spoiler talk of that game because it's got
next week
some really interesting stuff. Maybe, yeah. We'll talk about it. But either way, really enjoyed that game. I thought it was incredible. It's one of the best Metroid games ever made. Whether or not these people are in the credits or not, it's still a very good game. Definitely a Game of the Year contender. And I hope Nintendo comes around and forces them to add some of these people into the credits.
I imagine they would.
If they're doing a patch soon to patch out that problem, let's add a minute to the credits. Who cares? Anyway, Other than that, though, I've just been like fucking around on my Switch and like trying out games in OLED, and they're all so great. Wonderful game that like nobody ever talks about is Void Space Racing VSR. I've talked about that on the show before, and that's like a 0G racing game that I love that uses like actual physics where there's no friction in space, and so you have to just like constantly. Like if you accelerate, you'll just keep accelerating unless you accelerate in the opposite direction. Really cool racing game. Let's see what else. Streamed a little bit of Binding of Isaac and some Tetris Effect recently. And then I did. Maybe eagle-eyed viewers at the beginning of the show might have seen a clock in the background. I did pick up AAA Clock, which is. I don't know.
Better than Indie Clock.
I agree. I agree.
A lot more marketing and
Nintendo's second party clock. But I don't know. It's just a clock on your Switch. I feel like a total idiot for buying that, but I thought it'd be a funny bit. And now it was in the background of the video, so I can write it off for my taxes. I'm just kidding. We don't make any money off this podcast. Last thing I do want to talk about is speaking of racing games, a game that I kind of forgot that I owned. Is Fast RMX. Do you guys ever play this game? So this is like a launch game for the Switch. It's a remake of Fast Racing League Neo or something like that on the Wii U. And it's by Shinen, who I would love to talk to somebody from Shinen on this podcast sometime because they are the masters of getting the most out of underperforming hardware. Right. Like they also made the game The Tourist, which is out right now, which is one of the only games that the Xbox Series S can play 4K on. Also, it's on the PS5 version of The Tourist, runs 60 frames per second, 8K. You know what I mean? So like they just push their shit and they figured out how to like get performance out of games that shouldn't ever have them. Fast RMX is like one of the most beautiful, smooth, high octane, fastest racing games I've ever played. Totally scratches the F-Zero itch. It's a ton of fun. I really recommend picking it up. It goes on sale a lot. And if you're an F-Zero fan, it's really fantastic. There's even a mode in the game called Hero Mode where the boost and your like how much damage you can take are tied to the same thing. So it very much plays like F-Zero X. So while I'm waiting for F-Zero X to come out on NSO, I've been playing a lot of Fast RMX, and this game is really just incredible. So yeah, racing fans, check it out. It's a wonderful game. Matt, what about you? What have you been playing, man?
I've been playing nothing but Chrono Trigger. I was on the plane mostly, so we're playing through that. But mostly I want to talk about the gamified elements inside of Meow Wolf. So the first part is you have these like little cards and you scan them at different NFC stations in order to pick up the story. And I don't know, there's probably like maybe 25 or 30 of them, and you like find them in this 90,000 foot installation, 90,000 square feet installation. And so some of them are hidden, some of them are very obvious, some of them are next to some of the lore. There's like really big like metal books or art or computers that you have to log into. That's really fun. There's also like puzzles and riddles that you have to do. In one of them, you're like in this big ice structure, and it takes up all 3 floors, and it's this big glass cathedral, and there are these 2 mech machines. I know this sounds crazy.
Yes.
But you sit down in this.
Sounds awesome.
You sit down in this mech machine. And there's a mini game I didn't know, but if you go through the story elements, unlock 3 different stories, you get to control this mech, and this mech controls this like the orbit of the planets that's being projected onto the top of the room.
That's cool.
And if you control those in a certain way, in a certain pattern, then it unlocks this unique projection animation that lasts like 3 minutes. And so my friends and I just like sat there and like annoyed hundreds of people trying to like figure this out. And eventually we let people go, and like, you know, children are really excited to sit inside of the big
what that kind of sounds like to me is like Neon Genesis Evangelion came out on Netflix, and then the director of Meow Wolf finally got a chance to see it and was like, oh, you know what would make a great would make a great installation.
Yeah, there's two
Matthew,
mechs.
get in the robot.
Yeah. I got in that womb tube and I entered my mother. But man, Meowwolf was great. If you're a gamer, if you know story, if you like lore, it's just really cool shit. So there's like little things that happen that I just learned today that I didn't even pick this up. I was looking at New York Times interviews, but they have this whole room. It's called a room that you have to crawl into, and it's like really relaxing and really chill. And you crawl out of it into the rainbow room, and it's supposed to like it's supposed to be like birth. You're birthing into the world, into this organic world that this art piece is part of. It's just like trippy, and there's like game shit, and there's like fun shit, and there's like weird shit. I don't know, man. That's why I spent 7 hours there, and I can't wait to go back. So if y'all ever go back, I will go with you 100% of the time.
Too. Yeah, I've been wanting to go for a long time, so that it really sells it.
Summer.
I'll
what
go
have you been playing?
next.
Yep.
So my main rotation is every single day I wake up and I open Fire Emblem Heroes on my phone because there is currently a Halloween banner. For those of you that don't know, there most importantly, there is just this beautiful alternate right now for Lady Rhea from Fire Emblem Three Houses as a witch. She is so pretty, and I did get her the other day, but now I have to get like at least one more of her so I can build her as a like really strong unit, because that's how this game works. And then I'm playing through Bayonetta right now on my Switch. I bought the combo pack as soon as the Nintendo Direct was announced. I was like, I am going to purchase Bayonetta 1 and 2 in the event that there is Bayonetta 3 news and the price skyrockets. And man, my brain is massive because that is what happened. And it's amazing. I can't believe I wasn't playing this sooner. So many people in my life told me that I was going to love this, and they were all 100% correct. It is just an absolute banger. It's so amazing. I love it. Now I'm just really amped for the third one. Try to wrap up. I'm still getting my dailies in Pokemon Unite. I am again a cuck for Nintendo and Pokemon, and like all of this is Nintendo. Yeah, I'm still loving Pokemon Unite. I have not paid $40 for a skin yet because they haven't made a skin for one of my mains that costs $40. But God forbid that one does come out for someone that I made and it's $40, and that's going to be a big moral dilemma. And then yes, I am also playing Animal Crossing. When they announced the Animal Crossing Direct, I was like, I'm going to do it. I'm finally going to organize a big ass runway on my island. I played for a week long to construct it. It felt like 2020 again. I was like, I'm doing this. I'm motivated to make this one specific part of my island. And it ended up going without a hitch. So that's much more Animal Crossing in my future, obviously.
Awesome.
Great. Summer, thank you so much. I think that about does it then. Thanks for joining us on this
Thanks for
episode.
having me.
Of course.
Watching me cry multiple times.
I think that might be a first on the podcast.
Thanks to MilkyWay.co, who does our website. Thanks to Corduroy, who does our music. If you're looking for me online, I am PDYX.
Hey, I'm Matthew on Twitter, MATHYOU.
I'm pretty much everywhere on the internet at Monolith Fiji. And what about you, Summer? Where can people find you online?
I am finally more unified online. You can find me pretty much everywhere at Weebwitched, WEEBWITCHED. So like bewitched, but I'm a fucking weeb.
Yeah, very good. Yeah, make sure you follow Weebwitched on Twitch as well. Great Twitch streams over there. I try to catch them whenever I can. And then also, if you'd like to find our show, ladies and gentlemen, on social media, we are at Switch Headz on Twitter. We are at Super Switch Headz on Instagram and Facebook. And then, of course, make sure you join our Discord and our Facebook group. We're going to have links to both of those in the description. An extra little shout out, by the way, to Donnie on the Discord. We did play a little bit of Magical Drop 2 online, and that was a ton of fun. Donnie's now like a Magical Drop 2 pro. So that was fun playing with you for the first time, Donnie. It was a great voice, by the way. Anyway, we use Discord's voice chat things. If you ever want to talk with us. You can join the Discord as well. Ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for today's episode on Animal Crossing. Oh boy, it's another big one. But there's a lot to talk about, man. Just we were saying earlier, just the NSO stuff alone, we could have done a whole episode on that. So I'm glad you guys were here with us to get excited about Animal Crossing once again. We're going to be back next week with a brand new episode. Who knows what it's going to be about? Hopefully we do. But if not, tune in. It's going to be great. We'll be back next week. I don't really know what I'm talking about now, so I'm going to call it. Everybody get the vaccine. Stay safe out there. Love your neighbors. Love yourselves. We're all Nintendo cucks at the end of the day. We'll see you guys next week. Bye-bye.